This is a story about a ride to Animal Town. One day, Mr. Beaver had hooked his cart up to his horses, maybe they were mules, and was making a trip to Animal Town. Like other creatures, he needed to do some shopping. And on his way to Animal Town, he ran across Mr. Rabbit. And Mr. Rabbit was all kind of worn out and looked so tired. And so Mr. Beaver said, "Would you like a ride?" And Mr. Rabbit says, "Oh, yes." And so he crawled in the back of the wagon, hanging his feet over the end, and off they went to Animal Town. Well, as things would go going to Animal Town, they hit a bump, and it jarred Mr. Rabbit pretty good, and he says, "Ooh, that was tough." And then as they go on some more, they hit another bump and some ruts in the road, and each time Mr. Rabbit would complain and he would say something. And so after a while, Mr. Beaver just got tired of it, and he told Mr. Rabbit just to get off. And Mr. Rabbit said, "Why?" And he says, "Well, all you've done is complain, and I think you'll be happier not riding." Well, as they were going on down the road, why, Mr. Beaver looked back and saw Mr. Rabbit, and Mr. Rabbit was wiping his brow, and he was huffing and puffing and just very tired. And Mr. Beaver said, "Would you like to have another chance?" And Mr. Rabbit said, "Oh, yes." And so as they were going on down the road, they had another bump. And Mr. Rabbit kind of muttered something under his breath, and Mr. Beaver said, "What'd you say?" And Mr. Rabbit says, "Tired rabbit, so thankful for a ride."